Welcome to the Artful Minds by the Atelier magazine, where we plug into the pulse of creation.
Good evening. Welcome, Miss Aditi. Aditi Boratkar is a Bharatanatyam dancer and psychologist whose work beautifully blends art and therapy. With a foundation in dance movement therapy and a presence oriented approach to psychotherapy, she explores how embodiment, aesthetics, mindfulness, and community can foster deep healing. In this conversation, we delve into her journey from stage to therapy room and the wisdom she has gathered all along the way. We welcome you, Miss Aditi, for today's evening session.
Thank you. It is an absolute pleasure, Preeti. I know you are a wonderful, wonderful Bharatanatyam dancer, and the Atelier magazine has been doing brilliant work in bringing art in the forefront, especially our ancient Indian practices and their current implications. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad that I have got this honor to interview you today. So it feels really nice. And I would want you to just share a few words before we start off with the questions.
Yeah, so I think my journey has been from dancing and transitioning into psychology as a means of deepening my artistic pursuit, my understanding of dance, and especially the experience and expression of emotion that is so important to a form like traditional Bharatanatyam. And then to discover how in the field of psychology and psychotherapeutic counseling, we are integrating both to delve towards not only problem solving, but a greater pursuit of self-actualization and thriving. I've had an interesting journey in the sense from beginning as a dancer and then moving into psychology. I've had to uncover the legal formalities of practicing as a clinician in India, and then from there deepening into what is dance movement therapy really like when it is taught from the space of Western psychology, and what is the work happening here with, say, the Creative Movement Therapy Association of India or the Indian Association of Dance Movement Therapy in circles of artists and professional psychologists.
That's wonderful. So, on that note, I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting interview to know your journey from dance to therapy. So, I'm really looking forward. And here's your first question for the evening. So, your journey from Bharatanatyam to psychology is deeply intertwined, as you mentioned in the short introduction that you gave us. At what point did you first realize that art and therapy were not separate but profoundly interconnected?
Preeti, for me, this point came when I started working as an assistant professor on a MPhil clinical psychology program run in a private mental health hospital in accordance with the Rehabilitation Council of India. There, the goal was a reintegration of people into the same society where they had suffered profound psychological or social harm. And so, beyond the emotion regulation support offered in counseling or the capacity of emotion regulation that psychotherapy so often focuses on, it became important to explore how could these people find meaning and actually live with dignity in the same society where they had been hurt so much. And there, art, either in the therapeutic process, within the therapy room, as well as a supplement and recreation, has essential value.
That's wonderful. It's such a special thing. I think being an artist, that we are even helping people recover from something that they may have never thought that they would ever recover from. So I think linking art and therapy is really a wonderful thing. Your next question is, you write beautifully about embodiment, living an experience rather than merely representing it. So, how do you personally nurture your own sense of embodiment in everyday life outside the theory space, outside the therapy space? Pardon me.
So I think naturally for me, because I was introduced to it at a very tender and young age, Bharatanatyam has been the go-to, and after that, dance really a way to nourish that sense of embodiment within. But what I've also uncovered with my trainings and experience eventually is that there are attitudes that I've had to cultivate, right? The first is the attitude of curiosity and interest, so that acute observation of life around can unfold. And in that, then, to have the stillness of mind and that ability to empty the mind to create space and allow for an integration of what is observed, where it consolidates and emerges as an embodiment of sometimes emotion, but also a way of carrying forward communication and experience. So, formal practices of mindfulness and integrating mindfulness in day-to-day activities like, say, drinking your cup of coffee or going for a walk, which allows the mind to meditate upon its observations and its experiences, has been helpful for me.
Wonderful. So, witnessing both the struggles and the camaraderie among artists, how did these observations shape your perspective on mental health within artistic communities?
I think I am happy to say here that it has been so enriching to be introduced to and be able to participate in artistic communities in whatever capacity I could growing up. The thing that stood out to me was that because some art forms, and especially practices like traditional dance and Bharatanatyam, which have moved from, say, spiritual temple practices into the stage,
Yes.
where they are glamorized and now solo acts, right? A lot is lost in translation because they are not products that can be sold in that way. And therefore, there is a deep disconnection in what the roots hold and what is now available. But also, the schism for an artist to manage their role as an artist, commercially successful, performing beyond their passion towards learning and interest in art engagement, made me realize that it was so essential that for mental health, one stays connected and finds a meaningful way to harmonize all these different aspects of life, which can only happen when there is harmony within and within your immediate interpersonal environment.
Right. Okay, so moving on, aesthetics, mindfulness, embodiment, and community are some of the pillars of your practice. So if you had to pick the one that was hardest for you to master personally, which would it be and why?
Interesting. I would say my most recent learning and emphasis has been on mindfulness. I see it as the key to transcendence and self actualization, and really of making sense of ourselves and deepening into the harmony that is so natural for us, right? However, when I speak about these four pillars of practice and I look at embodiment and mindfulness and aesthetics and community, I'm looking at them as we look at four directions, right? Omnipresent, but not like we are mastering one or balancing into one, but finding our center within the context of these pillars and directions, and from there really rounding into that center and intentionally exploring each pillar with curiosity and a childlike beginner's mind, and then to come back to the center and restart this journey as if on an upward spiral towards the ultimate union with your actualized higher self.
So you speak about art as a pathway to mindfulness. So could you share a moment, either in dance or in therapy, where art helped someone, or probably it helped you yourself, move from survival to thriving?
So I would say the relationship between art and mindfulness is twofold, and it flows both way, because while engagement and full engagement with the arts requires an essential component of mindfulness to be with something moment to moment while allowing space for things to emerge as they are and having a compassionate lens throughout it all, right? Mindfulness also creates more space and allows for creativity to emerge in a more encouraged and diverse way, in a more disidentified way. So, when I look at my experience of seeing how dance helps people move from survival into thriving, while there are countless things that come to mind, I think there are two anecdotes very close to me. One, my own dance teacher. I learned Bharatanatyam in Nagpur, Maharashtra. And my dance teacher was this beautiful, talented, young Tamil woman who had married a Maharashtrian man and moved from Bangalore to Nagpur and really turned her life upside down 360 degrees to make adjustment to fit into this new environment. And she relied very heavily in her trust and faith on the art form and her own talent to navigate the challenges of rehabilitating into a new space, so to say.
Right.
Yeah. And now she's not only survived, but how Guru Srimati Madkholkar is the principal of a major dance and arts, fine arts school in Nagpur. She's been practicing, performing, growing a community of artists that is thriving here. And the second is my cousin. So my maternal aunt had adopted a baby girl. And when she was very young, we realized that she had some congenital deafness and hypothyroidism. And she struggled with her academics a little bit. And at one point, she loved coming to me to learn her academics because I was able to meet her where she is and break down and simplify things so that they made sense to her. And she also found her sense of joy and appreciation and confidence with the arts, with sculpting, painting, and actually dancing to music with exceptional rhythm um, accessibility.
Wow, wonderful. Really. So, in your clinical experience, how does helping clients reconnect with their body through movement transform their healing journey compared to traditional talk therapy?
Yeah. So I think compared to traditional talk therapy, what helps in using dance movement as a part of psychotherapy or the formal practice of dance movement therapy are the elements of one, kinesis, which includes an awareness of the position and posture of your body in space, and awareness of movement of your body and sensation of movements. Then these structured movement analysis methods like the Laban movement analysis, where movement is used both as a way of assessment and as a way of intervention. And we are looking at movement, yes, as movement of the whole body, but also we are looking at movement as an extension of behavior and thereby implicitly an extension of the experience of the body. And we know that all emotions have a bodily component to that. And therefore, in clinical practice, the use of movement and dance movement psychotherapy has an edge because it is innately trauma informed. It is very gentle, it is very holding, and it is very knowing of the functional anatomy.
Right. Yes, that's something really insightful because it's, not every day that we connect uh, psychotherapy with art, because usually when we are in our practice of art, we are just into art. Although we know that, yes, somewhere we are, using therapy ourselves as well when we practice. So when we teach, it's also part of a therapy. But yeah, when we get insightful, information like this, then it really reflects. So that's great. So I have another question for you. Advaita Vedanta's idea of truth manifesting in mirrored forms seems central to your work. So, how has your spiritual understanding evolved as you have moved through different life and professional stages?
At this point, I just first want to thank you, Preeti, because it is really, as I'm answering each question, I'm feeling like good about just being here and speaking about what I'm talking about. So, thank you for that. I think also, perhaps to speak about my spiritual growth and connection with the Advaita Vedanta. When I was very young, it began very ritualistically, right? So at home in the evenings, they would light a lamp and we would say a few prayers. And every evening after the sunset, it would be a ritual to follow. When I started learning dance, my teacher would have us bow down to the idols of Nataraja and Saraswati and then touch her feet, then pray to the ground as we started practice. Cut to when I was 15 years old and making my debut in Bharatanatyam, and also learning a little bit about philosophy of dance. This idea that there is divinity within, and by recognizing it in others, however it appears, and with the guidance from supportive and friendly elders, you have to recognize that divinity within and how it is in harmony with the world itself was life changing. So today, I come from that space where I do believe that human experience is essentially magical and transcendental.
That's I think something I really relate to, because spirituality, dance, it all just was very.
And can I add something?
Yeah.
For example, when you are learning a particular dance, right? It could be nritya, natya, nritya, whatever it is. If a teacher has 5 students, all of them, even though learning the same stylized tradition, the same movement, will have a different way of
Yes,
presenting
absolutely.
it. And even the same choreography, same music, if you're dancing to consistently, for example, the same padam I learned at 15, if I present it at 20, 25, 30, 45, I have a different layer of depth that I'm reaching because of my exposure and skill at that point of life.
And also the experience of life, probably, because when you have learned it at one age and you have crossed certain life phases, so maybe those phases and the experiences, it will definitely deep idea of expressing that particular piece again. So yeah, I mean, the joy of performing a piece learned 10 years back, performing it after 10 years is totally different. Yes.
Also, it is essential to knowing that the same thing, even though it is prescribed,
Correct.
there is a lot of flexibility there. So everybody will present and learn and understand within their own context,
Correct.
which is so essential to leave aside the judgments of wrong and right, moral, immoral,
Correct.
good and bad, which facilitates some beautiful growth even in the therapy.
Right, absolutely. And the point where you said, the 5 who learn it together will have their own style. Not just the style, they will have their own understanding of that same particular thing. So if I might take something as joy, somebody else might take it as sorrow, somebody else might take it as anger. So, I think that's the whole beauty of art. And I think that's also the whole beauty of therapy as well, because each person has their own journey, and the way they express is, yeah, it's definitely different.
And no one way of expressing joy, right?
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
We know from the Rasabhava theory that there is different sancharis that you can connect with to reach to the same rasa, to the same emotion of sentimental joy. Yeah, yeah.
And even if we don't go into the technicals, like even in everyday life, just expressing joy, each of us has a different way. Probably, what might be really exciting to you may not be as exciting to me, or maybe like even more exciting to somebody else. So I think that's the whole beauty of it. I think so. There's art in our just everyday life. I think even our breathing has art in it. So that's just so beautiful, because I think each of us has a different way of, even breathing. So that also is, the rhythm of the breath is also art. So yeah, it's really a beautiful thing. Great. So that brings me to the end of the questions, but I have a few rapid fire questions for you. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to the rapid fire answers. So your first question is a movement that instantly lifts your mood.
Okay, so this is movement and touch, but I find that closing my eyes and running my hands over my face as if I am, rubbing off the creases of a crumpled paper is an instant mood lift. Also, just this helps me somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Your favorite ancient poem to rehearse for emotional depth.
So I think here again, it is all poetry that I'm able to revisit over time from where I am in life to the same familiar music and verse and story. But I think some of my favorites in Bharatanatyam have been um, poet Jayadev's Ashtapadis, mentioned in the Geet Govinda, and some verses from the Gita also. Yeah.
Wonderful. Dance studio or therapy room? Where do you feel the most at home?
I feel like today's dance studios are not the same as the ancient places of learning of dance or places of learning Bharatanatyam, even at some places today. So the therapy room, because there, if we can set the intention and come into that mood and motivation, then there is space to accommodate anything.
If embodiment had a color, what color would it be?
I think white comes to mind because it includes everything and mixes with everything and can reflect all the colors. Yeah.
Also, I think white is peace. So, yeah. Great. A metaphor from art that you find yourself often using in therapy.
So many actually. It's difficult to come down to one.
Any one or two that you would want to choose?
Yeah, but I think metaphors of movement help a lot. Metaphors of also just postures and holding postures and facial expressions, right? That resonates a lot.
One classical text you would recommend to every therapist in training?
Oh, I think I already do. I think the Natya Shastra is absolutely a wonderful book to understand states of minds, to understand experiences of emotion, to understand expression of emotions.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the Bhagavad Gita of art, we can say. Right. Mindfulness in one word.
Presence.
A quality from your Bharatanatyam training that surprises even you when it shows up during therapy sessions.
I think sometimes just my teacher's voice saying, hold on. And beyond that, I don't think I can separate it like that. Therapy is a place where everything comes together.
Right.
So, how you learn, how you teach, how you experience, the personal and the professional converge there so beautifully.
Wonderful. So, on that note, I think you've really given an insightful session. And before I conclude, I wish you a very happy International Dance Day. And it's a wonderful day to even, talk about art and therapy and be so informative. And yeah, I think the whole information that you have brought out is very reflective, actually, a lot to take back and think about. So thank you for giving all of those beautiful experiences. And I think I had a really wonderful session, although it was quite short. We could have definitely asked you one or two more questions, but it's okay. It was
Yeah,
really
I can go on talking about this
absolutely
for hours together.
I think that's somewhere an advantage and a disadvantage, because we can just go on and on and on about it. But yeah, of course, considering time, but it was really very insightful, and I personally enjoyed it a lot. I think I've taken back quite a few reflective points. So thank you again for that, and I think thank you, Abhirami ma'am, for hosting the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah,
And
thank
Palak
you.
for coordinating.